I feel like this question comes up all the time when people are talking about like their passion or what they should do for their career, and it's kind of one of those things where like it seems, at least for me, like finding your niche seems like such an easy question to answer, but it was, for me, it was pretty complex because like I was doing so many things, from like working in corporate, doing this athlete thing, trying to figure out my side hustle, whether it was creating my own app. There were so many things going on, and I rarely had any downtime to really just sit and think about my thoughts and just like be with my thoughts. And so like now that it's been roughly 7 weeks since I've left corporate, I've really like gotten to a place where I, one, can have some space where I'm actually bored. As some of you know, I'm a big advocate for creating space to become bored, because I'm a big believer that boredom drives creativity. I think that we cannot be creative if we're constantly having these inputs altering the way that we think. And I'm actually, the day of this recording, this is actually day 4 of a 30-day challenge that I'm doing for myself. I haven't really said this to anyone. It's essentially, I wake up and I don't look at my phone or anything until after I've completed my running and stretching in the morning. So in the morning, I do like my morning routine, drink my water, drink my coffee, go running, do some yoga shortly after. And then only after yoga is done is when I finally open up my phone, check my messages, check social media, email, whatever it may be. And I'm finding myself get to that creative space quicker and more clearer because I'm not allowing other inputs like emails, text messages, notifications, whatever it may be. I'm not letting those inputs come in and cloud up what I'm thinking naturally as I wake up. And going back to the topic of like, how do you find your niche? I was thinking about this because I was going back through some of the content that I created from the Founders Only retreat that I did in Austin, Texas. And it reminded me of the question that I asked everybody, which was, as someone with a small following, how can I provide value to a brand?
Laser focus your messaging around something you're really passionate and knowledgeable about, so your audience knows you for like one thing really well.
So then I asked myself, what am I really passionate and knowledgeable about? And so I started to think a little bit, started to do some writing, but then I asked myself a follow-up question. What do I spend the most time doing on a day-to-day basis? So I started to write everything down on a whiteboard, and I started to do everything from the moment I woke up to during the day to the time I started to go back to bed. And it really boiled down to a couple of things, which were mountain running, functional training, business and entrepreneurship. That's where the work comes into play. Building relationships. So for those that don't know, typically I try to do a dinner with a friend or friends every single day because I want to make sure that I'm always building deep relationships with people. These could be with people that like I have had a long lasting relationship with, or people I just met. I'm always curious to hear other people's stories, and I love doing that over dinner. I think it's just a great way to end the day and just kind of like decompress from all of the work and the hustle. And that kind of sets me up for the nighttime routine. Because of like the dinners with friends, it just naturally leads into cultivating community because then more people want to attend, and we're always super welcoming to people coming to eat with us and stuff like that. So then I started to zoom out a little bit around like, okay, this is what I do during the day. This is kind of like the things that are the common denominator. And I wrote down, I'm the mountain running guy who left corporate to become a full-time entrepreneur. Okay, but I know I'm not the first person to ever leave corporate to go all in on their passion who also enjoys mountain running. So what makes me unique? This is me talking to myself. And then I started to think a little bit about like, what makes me different? What makes me the way that I am? And it really is my story, my journey, or some people say. So I started to think a little bit back on my childhood and just kind of reflect on like, what are all of like the big things that happened to me that really impact the way that I am today? So I started to think about being raised by a single mother, going through addiction, becoming like a corporate tech bro and like chasing the dollar, moving to Colorado, becoming an athlete, and now entering the chapter that I'm in now, which is the entrepreneurship side of everything. It's like, okay, so we have these moments that have happened to us, but how do they impact what we do today? So let's use the raised by a single mother example right here and dive into it. Growing up, we didn't have much money. I didn't know we didn't have much money, but it hit me first when I was in third grade. So I went to a school where once a month we had the option to have hot lunch, where essentially instead of bringing your lunch to school, you had the option to buy pizza. I think it was like $5 or something like that. So instead of bringing a brown bag lunch, you would then bring $5. You'd pay the school and you'd get pizza for lunch that day. We unfortunately could not afford the hot lunch growing up. And again, I didn't know that we didn't have much money, but it was one of those times where I came with my regular lunch and one of the kids go, haha, Omar doesn't have pizza because he's poor. And even at 37 years old, I kind of look back on that and I just go like, whoa, like kids are pretty brutal. And I don't think that kid was trying to be evil in any way. I think kids were just being kids, but it definitely left a feeling in me of just like, man, I'm a little different, right? I didn't know it was good or bad, not to say that it's bad to be poor or whatever it may be, but it left a mark on me. And then, my mom did everything that she could to get us into a specific high school that was in the neighboring town, Glen Ellen. We grew up in a town called Glendale Heights, but there was this small subdivision that got access to the super nice school, which was Glenbard West. For those unfamiliar with the town, Glen Ellen, Illinois, it is a essentially rich town with old money. And we were in the high school, which was great. But being one of the kids from Glendale Heights, we were known as the poor kids. And you saw kids driving up to school with the brand new Shelby GT 500. I mean, this was like the early 2000s when this was coming out. And it was just like so crazy to see. And I'm like, man, we are definitely living different lives, which was wild to see and experience. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, I never want to feel this way again. And like, I never want my future kids to feel this way. And so I remember leaving high school just telling myself, like, I'm going to chase money. Like, I want money. Money equals happiness. And that's what I thought. I definitely thought that if I have a lot of money, that I will be happy. And so we couldn't afford to go to like a really nice college or anything. So I just went to an online community school. It was super cheap. It was DeVry University. That's like not the best school, but I just knew I needed to get that paper to get into corporate so I can make a lot of money. And I remember also going to that school, but then also having a full-time job going door to door selling people windows and siding. I got really good at that, moved up into management and started making, I think, around like $35K a year while also being in school, which was great for a college kid. And so I knew that I was making money, but I knew that wasn't the end. I knew that after college, I would have to leave to go somewhere else to make even more money. So then I went to this company called CDW right after graduation, and they essentially are like the Best Buy for big companies. They buy all their technology solutions to make the company operate. I joined the company making roughly the same amount, maybe a little bit less than I was doing the door-to-door stuff, but I knew long-term that I would make a lot more. And so I just kept my head down and just focused on chasing the dollar, only the dollar, and that's all I focused on. So as the years went on, I kept climbing the ladder. I kept moving up to bigger accounts, which then led to bigger deals, which then led to more money. I got to a point where I realized I wasn't getting happier with the more money that I was making. And I was also going through sobriety at the time. This was like in my late 20s now. And I then moved to Colorado. I quit the company. I got recruited by this company called Gartner, which then sold consulting services, which got me into that world. And I was there for 4 years and I was making great money. I was working with really big companies and I was also really unhappy. I knew that my life was changing over as it's still changing today, where it's like you became this corporate tech bro, but you were making a ton of money, which is what you thought what you wanted to do. But then when you got there, you realized you weren't happy at all. You were becoming somebody that you weren't. And that's what ultimately led me to leave corporate and then pursue the entrepreneurship side. So let's take a quick second to like dive back on what just happened. So because of how I felt when I was in third grade or the 4 years in high school, that drove me to pursue a professional career and just go all in on it. And while it may have been a negative reinforcement, I don't know if it was, it got me to a place where I was then allowed to then move into entrepreneurship and have the confidence to know that I will make it because I saw what I did at corporate. I did this at 2 other companies. I went from addict to athlete. I'm like, wait, if I can do these things here, I can definitely do this here. And so going back to my childhood and like the things that I felt, I was driven in my professional life because I never wanted my future kids to feel like what I felt in third grade. And this is where it goes back to the question of like, if you're doing all these things, mountain running, entrepreneurship, functional training, whatever it may be, how are you different? That story, the story of back in third grade, like, that is the differentiator. That is part of my brand and part of who I am. And that's the connecting point to your audience. So like, as I think about my niche, yes, do I do mountain running, functional training, entrepreneurship? Great. That's awesome. But what makes me different? Raised by a single mother, went through addiction, moved to Colorado, changed up the whole story, right? Like there's this constant evolution of things always changing. And that's part of your niche. That's part of your story, and that's part of your brand. And that's exactly what's going to help you connect with your audience. So as we think about zooming everything out and kind of wrapping this up here, how do you find your niche? I really boiled it down to 5 bullets. I go, 1, we want to create a space to think through exactly what our niche is. So it could be anything like 24 hours of just being by yourself without your phone and just like allowing that boredom to settle in and see what's there. I know that can sound very scary for some people. I definitely used to be that way. But step 1 is to create a space where you can get creative. Number 2, it's write down everything you do in a day, right? Let's, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, what do you do every day? 3 is going to be, look at where you spend the most time. Like, what is your day mainly made up of? Number 4 is going to be around, ask yourself why you are the way you are. Why do I spend so much time running? Why do I spend so much time or make such an emphasis to connect with friends over dinner? What am I seeking? What am I trying to fulfill there? And then the last step is to really reflect on your life and find those drivers. So kind of connecting of like, why do you spend so much time there? It correlates with number 5 of like, because growing up this way, I am now this way. Is it something that you're happy with? Is it something that you want to change? That's totally cool too, right? We're always evolving. Those are kind of the steps that I took to get to the place where I understand what my niche is. And now I can really hone in on that to tell a story and then connect with companies that I align with from a value perspective. If you do get to a place where you're able to find your niche, I definitely would love to hear your exercise and like your niche and like how you're going to apply it. If any, you don't have to do anything, right? If it's something where it's like, I kind of see where I'm going now and I want to do X, Y, and Z, leave them in the comments. Shoot me a message on Instagram. I'd be so happy to read and kind of talk with you because I always like hearing other people's stories. And if you have any questions or concerns, just leave them in the comment section below. But I appreciate you watching, and we will catch you in the next video. This guy is killing it. He's doing so good. We're just over 3 miles. Look at that view. Look at that. Just absolutely beautiful. Sun's getting ready to come over the horizon there. It's downtown Denver. How you feeling, man?
Amazing, dude.
Dude.
Start your day like this. Do anything.
Dude.
Beautiful.
Fucking killing it, man.
Let's go.
Look at that beautiful morning.